Hello and welcome to this wonderful video about the hidden secrets of the human mind. Today we are going to explore an extraordinary book that will change how you think about your choices. This famous book is called Thinking Fast and Slow, and it was written by Daniel Kahneman. Daniel Kahneman is a brilliant psychologist who won the prestigious Nobel Prize in economics. He spent many decades conducting clever experiments to understand how people make daily decisions. He discovered that our brain uses two completely different systems to process information and react to events. The author decides to call these two mental systems simply System 1 and System 2. These systems work together inside your head every hour to help you navigate your life. However, these two systems often have intense conflicts which lead to major thinking mistakes. Understanding how these systems operate will help you avoid bad decisions and improve your intelligence. Let us begin by looking at the first mental system, which is called System 1. System 1 is the fast, automatic, emotional, and completely effortless part of your human mind. It operates instantly without your conscious direction, and you cannot turn it off voluntarily. System 1 was designed by evolution to help our ancestors survive in a dangerous wild environment. When a primitive human saw a dangerous wild tiger, they did not have time to sit and calculate. They needed to run away immediately to protect their physical lives from total destruction. System 1 makes split-second choices based on your instincts, habits, and past experiences. Let us look at some simple daily examples of System 1 in action right now. When you look at a photo of an angry person, you know their emotion instantly without thinking. When you hear a sudden loud noise in your kitchen, you turn your head toward the sound automatically. When someone asks you what is 2 plus 2, your brain gives you the answer 4 effortlessly. You can read large words on a billboard while driving a car on an empty road. You can understand simple sentences in your native language without focusing your heavy attention. All of these rapid tasks are managed entirely by the efficient engine of System 1. Now let us examine the second mental system, which is called System 2. System 2 is the slow, deliberate, logical, and highly effortful part of your human mind. It requires your conscious attention, deep concentration, and a lot of mental energy to operate. System 2 is lazy by nature, and it prefers to remain asleep unless it is absolutely necessary. When you turn on System 2, your body experiences real physical changes that scientists can measure. Your eyes become wider, your heart rate increases slightly, and your brain consumes more glucose sugar. Let us look at some clear daily examples of System 2 in action to see the difference. Imagine that someone asks you to calculate 17 multiplied by 24 in your head. Your brain cannot give you the answer instantly because System 1 does not know the solution. You must stop walking, focus your attention, and calculate the numbers step by step slowly. Other examples of System 2 include looking for a specific woman with white hair in a crowd. You use System 2 when you try to park your family car in a very narrow space. You use it when you count the number of times the letter A appears on a page of a book. You use it when you fill out a complex government tax form or learn a new language. System 2 is responsible for your logical reasoning, self-control, and wise long-term planning. In daily life, System 1 and System 2 have an interesting and continuous relationship. System 1 runs automatically all the time and creates thousands of suggestions for System 2. It creates quick impressions, intense feelings, and intuitive impulses based on what you see. If System 2 accepts these suggestions, they turn into your official beliefs and voluntary choices. Most of the time, this cooperative system works beautifully and saves a lot of your brain energy. System 1 is generally very good at its job because it detects patterns and protects you from danger. However, System 1 has several permanent flaws and biases that can deceive your logical thinking. It likes to create a simple story about the world, even if the information is completely missing. Because System 2 is inherently lazy, it often accepts the false suggestions of System 1 without checking them. It acts as a simple rubber stamp that approves bad choices because it does not want to work hard. This lazy behavior leads to predictable thinking errors, which psychologists call cognitive biases. Let us look at a clear narrative example to see how these two systems interact in a real life. Imagine a young man named John who wants to buy a modern laptop for his new business project. John walks into a large electronics store and sees a shiny silver laptop on a prominent display table. System 1 looks at the beautiful color and the famous brand logo and feels a wave of desire. System 1 tells John that this laptop is perfect and will make him look highly successful. If John relies entirely on System 1, he will buy the laptop immediately without asking any questions. But John decides to wake up his lazy System 2 to check the actual financial details. He reads the technical specifications sheet and compares the price with other online stores. He discovers that the shiny laptop has a very weak battery and costs twice as much as it should. His System 2 saved him from making an expensive mistake by overriding the emotion of System 1. This story shows why we must always question our first impressions and fast, intuitive feelings. We must learn to slow down our minds and use logical calculation when making important life decisions. Let us now explore several famous cognitive biases explained by Daniel Kahneman in his book. The first widespread cognitive bias is called the anchoring effect in modern psychology. The anchoring effect happens when your mind relies too heavily on the first number it sees in a conversation. This first number acts as a heavy anchor that traps your thinking and distorts your judgment later. Let us look at a clever experiment conducted by researchers to see how anchoring works on people. The researchers spun a large wheel of fortune that was secretly rigged to stop on either 10 or 65. After the wheel stopped, they asked the participants a seemingly unrelated historical question. They asked what percentage of African nations belong to the United Nations organization. The participants who saw the wheel stop on the number 10 gave an average guess of 25%. The participants who saw the wheel stop on 65 gave an average guess of 45%. The random number on the wheel had absolutely nothing to do with the historical question asked. Yet the number anchored their minds and heavily influenced their final estimates without their awareness. Store owners and expert negotiators use the anchoring effect every single day to make a profit. Imagine a clothing store that places a large sign on a jacket that says, "Regular price $300. Today, the store offers a special discount and sells the jacket for only $100. $100 is still a lot of money for a simple jacket in the local retail market. But because your System 1 anchored on the initial price of $300, $100 feels cheap. You believe you are saving a lot of money, and you buy the jacket with a happy smile. The store owner manipulated your choice simply by placing a high anchor number in front of your eyes. The second common cognitive bias is called the availability heuristic in daily communication. The availability heuristic means that we estimate the frequency or safety of an event based on memory ease. If examples of an event come to your mind easily, you will believe that the event happens constantly. Our minds naturally confuse the ease of remembering things with the actual statistical truth of the world. The media plays a massive role in creating this bias because they always broadcast rare, shocking events. Let us look at an example involving a married couple named David and Sarah to understand this. David and Sarah want to travel to another city for their summer family vacation. David suggests buying plane tickets because flying is incredibly fast and comfortable for children. But Sarah watches the television news every night and recently saw a tragic airplane crash story. The dramatic images of the burning plane are highly vivid and fresh inside her memory. She feels a deep terror of flying and insists that they drive their family car instead. Sarah believes that flying is extremely dangerous because the plane crash memory is easily available to her. In reality, statistical data proves that driving a car is many times more dangerous than flying in an airplane. More people lose their lives in car accidents every single week than in plane crashes every single year. But because car accidents are ordinary, the news media does not broadcast them with big, dramatic headlines. Sarah makes an unsafe decision because her System 1 substituted a hard statistical question with an easy emotional feeling. The third important cognitive bias is called the substitution bias, or answering an easier question. When our brain faces a highly complex and difficult question, it often finds a way to save energy. Instead of answering the hard question directly, it secretly substitutes it with a much simpler question. Then it answers the easy question and believes that it has solved the original difficult problem. Imagine a manager named Tom who needs to hire a new financial accountant for his corporate firm. The hard question Tom should answer is whether the candidate will be accurate, disciplined, and profitable for years. To answer this correctly, Tom needs to check their past work history, references, and test scores carefully. But during the brief interview, the candidate smiles warmly, tells a funny joke, and looks very handsome. Tom immediately feels a strong liking toward the candidate and decides to hire him that afternoon. Tom substituted the hard question of professional competence with the easy question of, "Do I like this person?" His System 1 made a fast, emotional choice, and his lazy System 2 approved it without any checking. This bias is why many companies hire the wrong employees and suffer from low productivity later. The fourth fascinating cognitive bias is called the framing effect in business marketing. The framing effect means that the specific way information is presented completely alters your reaction to it. Humans are not perfectly rational creatures who only care about the objective logical facts of a situation. We react to the emotional color of the words used to describe the facts in front of us. Imagine that you want to buy a healthy yogurt at a local grocery store for your breakfast. You see two identical jars of yogurt sitting next to each other on the cold supermarket shelf. The first jar has a large white label that says 90% fat-free for your health. The second jar has a large red label that says contains 10% fat for your taste. Both labels describe the exact same mathematical reality and the exact same amount of fat content. However, experiments show that almost everyone prefers to buy the first jar with the fat-free label. The word fat-free creates a positive frame that makes your System 1 feel safe and happy. The word fat creates a negative frame that triggers thoughts of weight gain and unhealthy habits. Advertisers use the framing effect to manipulate your daily food choices and spending habits constantly. Now let us explore one of the most famous theories in the book, which is called prospect theory. Daniel Kahneman and his partner Amos Tversky created prospect theory to explain how people evaluate financial risks. Traditional economists believed that humans make decisions by calculating the rational utility of money. They thought that losing $100 feels exactly as painful as winning $100 feels pleasant. But Kahneman proved that human psychology works very differently when facing gains and losses. He discovered a universal human trait, which he decided to call loss aversion in behavioral economics. Loss aversion means that we hate losing something much more than we enjoy gaining the exact same thing. In fact, scientific experiments show that the pain of a loss is psychologically twice as powerful as the pleasure of a gain. Let us look at a simple coin toss game to see how loss aversion affects your financial choices. Imagine that I offer to flip an ordinary coin in front of you right now in this room. If the coin lands on heads, you will lose $100 of your hard-earned cash to me. If the coin lands on tails, we'll pay you $100 of my own money from my wallet. Would you accept to play this coin toss game with me today? Most ordinary people will refuse to play this game immediately without hesitating. They say that the risk of losing $100 feels far too painful and stressful for them. The mathematical chance of winning is 50%, and the offer is completely fair on paper. But your System 1 screams with fear at the prospect of losing your precious cash. To make you accept the game, I must raise my offer to pay you $200 if it lands on tails. Now the pleasure of winning $200 is large enough to balance the intense pain of losing $100. This experiment proves that our daily choices are heavily driven by our fear of losing things we already own. Loss aversion explains why many people stay in miserable jobs or keep bad investments for too long. They are terrified of admitting a loss because their brains view a loss as a massive psychological defeat. This fear is connected to another dangerous bias called the sunk cost fallacy in life management. The sunk cost fallacy happens when you continue spending time or money on a failing project simply because you already invested a lot. Imagine a woman named Emma who buys a ticket for $20 to watch a new movie at a local cinema. After 30 minutes inside the dark theater, Emma realizes that the movie is incredibly boring and terrible. The actors are poor, the story is silly, and she feels a massive headache coming on. The rational choice for Emma is to stand up immediately, leave the theater, and do something she enjoys. The $20 is already gone forever, and she cannot get it back, whether she stays or leaves. But Emma decides to sit in the uncomfortable chair for 2 more hours and finish the terrible movie. She tells herself that she must stay because she does not want to waste her $20. By staying, Emma wastes her valuable time in addition to wasting her hard-earned money. She suffered from the sunk cost fallacy because her mind hated the idea of accepting a loss. We see this fallacy in businesses where managers spend millions fixing a broken system that should be deleted. We see it in relationships where people stay with toxic partners for years because they spent a long time together. To think clearly, you must learn to ignore the past costs and focus entirely on the future utility of your choices. Now let us discover another major theme in the book, which is the concept of the two selves. Daniel Kahneman explains that there is a big difference between the experiencing self and the remembering self. Your experiencing self is the one that lives in the present moment and feels the actual physical sensations today. It answers the simple question, how do you feel right now while you are doing an activity? Your remembering self is the one that sits back later, keeps score, and maintains the history of your life. It answers the question, how was the entire experience after the activity has completely finished? Our brains do not listen to the experiencing self when we evaluate our past happiness, or making future plans. We listen entirely to the remembering self, which has a very unique and biased way of keeping memories. The remembering self follows two strict psychological rules, which are the peak-end rule and duration neglect. The peak-end rule states that your memory of an event is determined by its most intense moment and its final moment. The middle parts of the experience or the total duration of the event are completely ignored by your memory. Let us look at a detailed experiment involving two groups of patients to see this amazing rule in action. Group A had a painful medical procedure that lasted for 10 minutes and ended abruptly with high pain. Group B had the exact same medical procedure, but it lasted for 20 long minutes instead of 10. For the first 10 minutes, Group B felt the exact same intense level of pain as Group A did. But during the last 10 minutes, the doctor moved the machine gently and the pain level decreased significantly. The total amount of physical pain suffered by Group B was twice as large as the pain suffered by Group A. Yet when the researchers asked the patients to rate their experience later, Group B reported much less suffering. They remembered the procedure as being more comfortable because it ended with a lower level of pain. Their remembering self ignored the 10 extra minutes of misery and only evaluated the average of the peak and the end. This discovery explains how humans make choices about vacations, relationships, and daily activities. You can have a wonderful 2-week vacation in a beautiful country with perfect weather and nice food. But on the very final day of your trip, you lose your passport at the airport and miss your flight home. Your remembering self will look back at the entire vacation and label it as a complete nightmare. The 13 happy days are fully erased from your memory by the single stressful event at the final end. We choose our future actions based on the biased memories created by our remembering self. We look for experiences that have a great peak and a happy ending, even if they are short. To achieve true happiness, we must learn to protect both our experiencing self and our remembering self. Now let us discuss how to apply these valuable psychological lessons to improve our daily systems of life. You cannot eliminate System 1 from your brain because it is an automatic and essential biological machine. You need System 1 to walk, talk, read signs, and react to emergencies every single day. However, you can learn to recognize the specific situations where System 1 is likely to make a mistake. When you are making a major financial decision or choosing a career path, do not trust your gut feeling. A gut feeling is just an intuition created by System 1 based on simple emotions and quick patterns. Slow down your thinking process intentionally and force your lazy System 2 to wake up and work. Grab a clean piece of paper and write down the actual objective numbers, facts, and statistics. Ask yourself, what is the anchor number in this conversation, and how is it manipulating my judgment? Check if you are choosing an option simply because it is framed with beautiful positive words. Beware of the availability heuristic when you read shocking news headlines on the television or internet. Remind your mind that a rare dramatic event is not the normal reality of the global world. When an investment or a project is failing, do not throw more money into it to save your pride. Accept the loss bravely, ignore the sunk costs, and redirect your energy toward better opportunities. Another excellent strategy to protect your decisions is to surround yourself with analytical friends. Your friends can look at your choices with an objective mind because their System 1 is not involved in your emotions. They can see your cognitive biases easily and warn you before you make a foolish mistake. Let us quickly review the core lessons we learned from Daniel Kahneman's brilliant guide today. First, understand that the mind has two engines, which are the fast System 1 and the slow System 2. Second, protect your judgments from the anchoring effect by ignoring the first initial price offer. Third, recognize the availability heuristic and look at statistical data instead of dramatic memories. Fourth, avoid the substitution bias by answering the hard question instead of the easy emotional one. Fifth, watch out for the framing effect and focus on objective facts regardless of the words used. Sixth, understand loss aversion and realize that your fear of losing can trap you in bad situations. Seventh, defeat the sunk cost fallacy by focusing your attention entirely on future utility and results. Eighth, distinguish between the experiencing self that lives today and the remembering self that keeps scores. Ninth, apply the peak end rule to design happy memories for yourself and your loved ones. 10th, create a daily environment that forces you to slow down and calculate before acting. Training your mind to think slowly requires a large amount of time, patience, and continuous discipline. Our modern world is designed to make us react instantly to messages, ads, and notifications. We are constantly pushed to use System 1 to make rapid choices every hour of the week. But true greatness, deep wisdom, and financial success belong to those who can master System 2. Start small today by taking a deep breath whenever you feel an intense urge to buy an item. Count to 10 slowly and ask yourself if you truly need the item or if your System 1 is just excited. Look at your past failures with a calm, scientific mind and find the real structural lessons inside them. Read good educational materials, study personal psychology, and improve your critical thinking skills daily. Trust your logical systems, protect your mental attention, and never give up on your intellectual growth. The universe has incredible rewards waiting for those who can control their emotions and think deeply. Take full control of your attention, upgrade your internal maps, and unlock your ultimate potential. Your journey to a wise, successful, and logical life begins this very single morning. Make every single decision count. Slow down your thoughts and enjoy the wonderful fruits of clear thinking.